How you doing, Martin? Graham, good to see you guys. Um, Here we are. Uh, I am most anxious to move along with this. Let me bring up the agenda and get started as soon as we can because we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. Um, Hi, Steve. Steve, did you ever get your watch back? The one you sent in to fix up for you? Hi, Don. Raymond, good to see you. Damon, Nigel. I I keep wanting to say Homer, but it's Nigel. I remember that now. Okay, let us begin. And what I want to talk about first is you may have noticed that on the thing I had a little note to Hobson's choice. Uh, Great. Um, and the the choice that we have is it's almost let's go with what we have or um wait another year or however long it takes Comblamine to get its act together that never seems to be coming together. And I contacted a lot of you. I know I contacted Donald and Nigel and the other coordinators, as well as Rob and Abdul and everyone else who was involved in this. Not everyone, but I think. Good morning, Brian. I think. Oh, thank you. What I think we're going to have to do is more or less uh, bite the bullet because it's clear that um, Comblamine is not going to do anything more than a minimum. And hi, Michael. So let me sort of fill you in what happened between last time and this time, and that was why for those of you who I contacted to get a flavor of what was going on. Let me bring up the note that I got from I want to call him Sebi. There was a guy who was a director of one of these programs that I oversaw named Sebi, and so I want to call Sebastian Sebi, but I won't. Okay, let me bring this up real quick. And you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the note that I got from Sebastian, and it was pretty much the choices that we end up with, which is almost no choice at all, not because of Sebastian, but because of Comblamine. And he's had these meetings with him and so forth, including Caribou and Lannon. Says as a result, I can no longer impose myself since they don't take me into account. Essentially, what Sebastian is saying is that if we get a dial, a watch with a dial with a problem on it, he can't keep redoing the whole things every time there's a problem because it's from. I mean, some of these things are little bitty ones. I know that one of our guys who had a little problem with it, and it wasn't a big problem, but it was something that we should have expected something better, sent it back, and so we're trying to get. There are too many issues that he'd have to deal with, and so he said okay, here are the plan, what we can do. He's got two choices, and that's to send the dials back or to have the quality validated by the Lyrique group. In the first case, I would do what's necessary to provide the necessary photos to justify my refusal of quality, and it will be up to the Lyrique group to resume discussions with the company. Okay. In other words, um, Sebastian says, they don't listen to me. I've met with them. I showed it to them. They understand it, but they're sort of haven't really upped their game, so to speak. He said the second case, I take the photos of each dial, and the group must validate the dial for me to avoid any future return on this subject. That's what, and I don't blame them. I mean, because every time they've got to take the whole thing apart and see if they can fix it or replace it or do something to it. So that would be the second case. Hang on a second. This situation is not correct for all the actors in this project. Unfortunately, I think that the only legal way would be to make it possible to make Comblamine act in the right direction. So what we're left with pretty much is what we're left with is Hobson's choice, which is essentially no choice at all. But I wanted to sort of bring this out to everybody, especially those of us who are those of you who haven't got their watches yet. One thing that I will say that Brian and I and Jeffrey, all three of us, we got one blue one yellow one, or one gold one, and one brown one. And these are ones that I guess say that Sebastian just said that they didn't meet the criteria. And I'm not saying or even suggesting that Sebastian is being too critical, but for the work that they do, I think, or what they're supposed to do, they should be doing it better than they are. So, yeah, Brian, that's one way of putting it. He's at his wit's end. I had some pictures that I took using the magnifying glass on the ones that I got. So let me bring some of these up, see if I can do it in such a way that would be, hang on a second, let me see if I can do it this way. I think this will give you an idea now. Okay, these I took a number of pictures of mine, and you can the problem that I think was a greater problem as far as Sebastian was concerned was that he found the problems here in the hour chapter ring, or I guess it would be the hour and minute chapter ring, or the hour chapter ring and not the minute chapter ring. But they were in the indexes, and I think in the indexes he was referring to the numbers, and some of these were chingered up, and some of the stuff. Oh no, yeah, here's some indexes, I guess. No, that's a one. So, but and look at mine, and I used one of those loop systems with a camera attachment, and took a lot of different pictures because the light plays a lot of effects on it. But as far as I could tell, it was dark, but that was because of the color, and again with different lighting. And so I think really where the biggest problems are, because some people are asking, well, it's done with a machine, referring to the guilloche, referring to this part. So how come they're so much different? It's not the guilloche, it turns out, but rather around here where I guess they have to put it in by hand. And that is where they run into some problems. So let me see. So anyway, they it, they may not be perfect, but I think, whoops, clown, get him out of there. Okay, so that's pretty much it as far as where the having the watches and working with them, they've been very um they've been, I mean, as far as a horology is concerned, the thing is perfect. I I like it. So I can't, but that doesn't mean that all of them are going to end up the way that the ones that Brian and Jeffries and mine will, because they were from the same batch that had been rejected. So anyway, hey Caesar, yeah, Brian, you're right. He's at his whip's end. Hi Dar. Do we know why there is such inconsistency since there are CNC? It's the CNC is on the Gilo shade, Dar, not on the edges and stuff where the numbers and the index numbers go in. And I think that that's where the inconsistencies come from. And like I said, in looking at the Gilo shade, it's looking pretty good. Some of the close-ups that I think that we had before, you can see it's not the Gilo shade that where the problems are. So anyway, I'll tell you something though, Dar. We shouldn't have to put up with this crap. Period. I really here Comblamine has to me they just trash their reputation along with Kari Boot and Lanans. That's my I mean, I think it's ridiculous for them to do that and then claim to have anything other than, a shoddy reputation. Because we didn't pay for okay dials. We paid 1,000 Swiss francs per dial. It's a lot. We could have gotten a lot better deal at other places. At the time, when Matu had suggested it, um, the it was a totally different company run by somebody who knew what he was doing, but he left. From what I can gather, here he is in the middle of something, and Voot says, "Okay, stop everything. Here's you got to do mine first." Well, that really messes up a process, and so the guy left. And then they couldn't get anybody right, and so that's where we are right now. Yeah, darn, never meet your heroes. That's so that's so true. I've had a really good relationship with Boot and Lannon. For I interviewed him years ago and had a great, here was a guy with all of this, had these high standards and wouldn't and a lot of the stuff he did was on the dials, but some of the things. So I think that having contacted a lot of the guys, including Abdul, who was late, um, you know, there's I think it's like it's been a year. It's been over a year where we first spotted the problem and sent all of those back. And then of course then we got this. I don't care if you like Trump or not. I can't stand him. I couldn't stand him when he was a Democrat, and now he's pulling this crap. That and now there's a court thing that said no, you can't have that, and they said, well, you can keep these ridiculous tariffs until we make a court decision, which is sometime and God knows when. So I don't know. It's just one of those things, but it's not. Actually, it's not Trump's fault that he's Trump, but rather because of Comblemine has scooted up until this other thing's going on. Hi, Expert 37. KV is my least favorite watchmaker. No, mine too. I got to tell you something. I'm not the only one. There's another company. But before we even started, a friend of mine who is the kind of guy that buys these multi-million-dollar watches and stuff was telling me that he's really mad at Wooten Lannon. So I think what happened with him, he simply, sort of his grasp exceeded his reach. Adding on Urban Jurgensen, adding on all of these other things. Catton left Catton and Wooten Lannon too, the case makers. So there's just sort of like, and I'm sure that it's not going to help him. Again, he has such a small number of his individual watches, but I think if he's hoping to make any money from the case makers or the other ones, that may be having not so great returns. Yeah. Yeah. Abdul, thank you for that. Well, the other thing, it looks so far that Heure Zoulou's moving right along. Okay, so that's where we are on that. So let me just, is there any? Yeah, okay, yeah, I know. I'm not saying we shouldn't tell Sebastian to back off either, Brian. I'm the same way. Mine, I showed you the pictures and I couldn't see anything wrong with them other than my mediocre photography. But I agree. These things, but Sebastian is doing what we paid him to do. I think the other thing that we really have to be sure about, especially on Heure Zoulou and on Heure Setan, we were getting too many watches where the movement was screwing up. I had to send mine back on the first one, and I had to send it back on the second one for movement issues. So, that's one of the things I think that we really have to do the tighten up on both from Agenor as well as Made on that, because Made has to take the stem out, put the watch in, put the stem back in, and probably cut it and to get this to the right size. Well, there's been a lot of problems with this stem, one of which is nothing more than tightening this one screw that secures the stem. So we've got to make sure all of that is done right on this next time around, because the whole issue of sending back and forth, especially to the United States now, has become very problematic. That reminds me, by the way, too, for the U.S. watches, what I'm proposing, and you guys can say yes or no, whatever you want. We've got this big issues. There. First of all, a lot of companies are no longer shipping to the U.S., and I don't blame them, because the whole thing with the tariffs is loosey goosey and insane, and so that's one thing. So what's going to happen? So we have to wait until this whole thing resolves itself. Now, from a lot of work we've figured out is that returning watches that had been in the U.S., were sent for repair and back, are not subject to the tariff. Okay. We even put in some phony baloney charge for fixing them up. We didn't pay any because we paid enough already for everything. So what I may do is simply go over there and get them and then bring them back. And going through customs, I'll have all of the paperwork that says, look, and I also got the statute that says if they're returning, there's none of that on there. There's no additional customs or anything else. So that's something that I may do. Now, the other option would be to hire a courier, but that would be almost as much. So we'll see what happens on that once they come back. Now, the first thing I want to do is make sure that everybody in Europe and everybody in Asia and Australia get theirs before the ones come back to the U.S. And at that time, maybe this whole tariff thing will have settled. I don't know. God knows what's going to happen. Okay. Yeah, Daria, taking photos and approve of each dial. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that the thing that bothers me of all the things, sometimes oxidation can be nothing more than almost a pinprick, okay? And then that doesn't stay as a pinprick. Then you got problems. And I'm going to find out with Sebastian, because he did say that there was some oxidation on some of these, is that if he can get, if there's some way just to clean up the spots of oxidation without wrecking the dial, that's what I would hope for, because I would really hate for someone to get one with a little oxidation that then would be a big oxidation. Brian, you don't know whether they were misapplied. What do we pay? About $450? I think so. I think definitely so. But, what are you going to do? They don't know what's going on. Michael, as long as you don't get picked up from ICE, what are they going to do? They're going to either send me back to Sweden, Germany, or England. That's it. That would be. How many have been completed this far? That's hard to know, Donald. I think there's roughly about half. I think they've got about half of them have been. But I'm not even positive about that. I tried to figure it out. And here's where we are right now. This is why it's difficult to figure out. Not everybody in the U.S. sent their maroon ones back or their burgundy watches back. Then there are four or five pink ones, I think. They're the 5 pink ones. And so it's let me see. Yeah, I think so. It was like, I wasn't sure exactly, but there was something. So, well, we got about 50 something left. So I'm going to go with that, even though it may not be accurate. Yeah, $480 for the repair thing. That's why, by the way, Brian, I got somebody sent me something that said, here it shows the document says they are not subject to customs or tariffs. Now, customs actually isn't very bad in the U.S. In fact, customs is great. What's rough is these stupid tariffs. And I think the people who charge us on that $480, they didn't know what to do with all of this nonsense going on. I mean, it just has been. It's by someone who really thinks he can do everything. I mean, we got a maniac for medicine, a guy who's getting rid of Jesus Christ. All we need is another pandemic, and there won't be anybody left. Sorry about that. No more complaining. Doesn't help. What we have to do is find solutions. Okay, so let's move right along. Okay, so this is the thing, and just so everybody understands, if we accept a dial, we can't send it back for repair. The dial, we can send it back if the movement's not working right. So I'll try to get Sebi's attention on that. The other thing that's happening too, just as we go into Heure Zoulou, we got the invoice for the tooling to make the hands from La Pratique, which is sort of interesting because their address seemed to be a Swiss address, but I was told they were French. In fact, I located a La Pratique in France, so I'm not too sure how that works out. But anyway, Rob had checked to see whether that was a lot for tooling, and we checked with Matthew, and Matthew at one time had said those were the figures that they had given us. So I guess that's what they had. See, this is one of the problems we have with this damn Comblamine, is that it's getting in the way of all of our other stuff we're trying to get done. So, I mean, to move forward on. But it looks like we're doing it anyway, so that's a good thing. Yeah, probably like that. It's something I'm not going to worry about. The good thing is that we get our VAT back. They've got that's another thing that I sent Rob a little reminder that the invoice had the incorrect address for the Lyrique LLC that's connected up with in Le Loc with Mike Newsbomber. Okay. So there are two of them we have. We still have the satellite one because there's no end to the E2, E2 number 2. And then we have the one for the one since then. So that's the thing, that they had it partially, but they didn't have it filled out totally correctly. But they had sort of the beginnings of it. I'll say that. Okay, so that seems to be going okay. All right. Michael, did we look at Fiedler for hands? Yeah, that's an interesting question. I was wondering the same thing, Michael. I had asked Matthew about that. I said, why not with Fiedler? And he said he didn't think Fiedler would do it. I'm not sure why. And then we looked at some other ones remember the ones with the really high prices for the hands that was just sort of out of the question. And so he mentioned La Pratique, and then he wasn't sure about that. So that's what I was dealing with, Michael. You're right, though. I was wondering, gee whiz, there was some, so I'll put it, some funky stuff going on with Fiedler. And I think it had to do with bookkeeping on their part. There wasn't anything nefarious, but just sort of like a lot of things were mixed up. And on the other hand, Isabelle Chillier, who's the CEO of Fiedler, loves us because Owen sent her one of the books. She admired it when she saw it at Agenor. So Owen, man of the hour on that one. Yeah, Abdul, listen, I left it up to Matthew with a lot of things because we're not on the ground there, okay? And there's other things that are going on, and it's one of those things. It would be nice if we had someone who was totally dedicated to getting our stuff through this, but we need the skills. The main reason, the important things for Matthew's skills have more to do with these precision that is needed for fitting a movement into a dial. So you have and then making sure all of these little numbers are just right, because you remember what happened with again, Etude number 2, when there was a slight change in the movement, and then we had to redo 50,000 Swiss francs worth of movements, and had to pay that all over again. So it's a funny kind of thing. On the one hand, there's certain points where I've said, and I think we've sort of agreed to it, is that we want to do it in a certain way that may not be exactly what you want design-wise, but all things considered is probably a good idea. Just like we had on the Heure Zoulou, we have the Zoulou hand on the outside. Instead of having this sort of a cut dial. I mean, after what we've gone through the dial, just simple dial, have it on the outside. So we have those kinds of discussions, and as much as Michael has asked a number of times, could we have a red tip to the Zoulou arm? And I don't know, maybe we can still get something like that. We'll see. I think sort of almost a blood red, brownish blood kind of color for it may work out okay, because what Matthew doesn't want to do, he doesn't want to mess up the design. And believe me, that can happen very easily. So we have to be very careful on those things. Yeah, there was something. You're right about that, Brian. I think that was a workup, but then I talked to, that was but then I asked Matthew, I said, well, why don't we go back to them? I think we had talked back and forth, and he said, no, they wouldn't take it. So maybe it was a counter offer we were thinking about. I don't know what it was, but we'll see how Pratique does. One of the things we're getting a tour of some of these people doing the work for us. By the way, too, on Heure Zoulou, you may want to also use AB concepts again, depending on what the dial looks like. I mean, depending on what the case looks like, because we're paying half as much for Heure Zoulou for the case as we did for Etude number 1 and Etude number 2. Yeah, that's a funny thing, Nigel, about the hands on the side. It was sort of like, it was because they have a coating on it. And the thing about the coating that we have on all of ours, the coating will, when watches get old and the hands start getting sort of funky looking, this coating is supposed to prevent that. So I can't see the sides anyway. But you're right. There you go. No, Michael, you're not the scapegoat. I agree with you, but on the other hand, the reason my only hesitation is that I know from working with programmers and designers in software that you don't want programmers doing the design. Okay, and the way I look at us, we're the programmers. Well, we're not exactly, but close. Is blue used for the? So that's the same blue that is used for the hour numbers. Are the hour numbers in blue? I didn't know that. Maybe maybe that's on Heure Soutant. On Heure Zoulou, I don't know what color. I just thought, I'm not even sure what color they were. We'll look at that. Okay, good. So you're going ahead and use AB concepts too. Good. Okay. Moving right along, sort of stumbling right along. Lyrique Society Cooperative. This has, it seems like there's a wax floor between the work I got to get done and getting that thing off the ground. Because every time I start it, something comes up, and the whole thing with the sort of basically the Hobson choice we had to deal with. I wanted to address that first because, like everything, we got to get that thing done. But going back again to Lyrique Society Cooperative, uh, I think I'd like to put together an online meeting. We have a steering committee, but there are three people that we need for the board. Let me give you my suggestions, and you can tell me whether I'm full of beans or not. I would suggest Abdul, Rob, and Owen. Okay. Um, there may be somebody else who would also be good for the board, but all three of those members are active members. They're doing something. If somebody else would say, "Hey, that's not a very good choice," or they think that somebody else would be better, let me know. Okay. Um, that's what I do, Nigel. I don't want to do it. Okay. All right. Okay. So listen, we'll have to do something with that, and I'll tell you why. And one of the reasons I think that Owen is going to be important for this. So what I'm going to do, we also need seven people for to be stupid balloons. I had no idea to do that. We need seven people, so we'll have the three who are the board members, plus we need four more. I was going to volunteer to do it with as because you can they can have both entities as well as individuals. So I was going to put in Sandlight LLC as an entity, and then we could have at least three others. So if anybody would like to do it, we could have three plus more than that. Now, there's something about divvying up shares in it. So we're sort of going to have, God, I don't know how anybody come up with an idea on how we're going to have shares on it. Yeah, I think we have seven wise guys. So if anybody would like to volunteer, that's fine because we can have. So right now with Rob, Matthew, and Owen, not Matthew, but Rob, Abdul, and Owen for the board. So I guess we could have it just open it up. I know that Michael Pagoda had said he'd like to be a part of it. He's in Germany. I think that's a good idea. So, like I said, anybody who'd like to volunteer, contact me, and I'll be glad to include you. Okay. Okay. Anything else on that right now? I contacted Dominic. Are you here? I contacted Dominic about. He was the one who has been very active in promoting society cooperative rather than some other kind of incorporation. And I think after looking at everything, I think he's right. We also voted pretty good. Oh, you're here. Good. Okay. You're on it. Okay. You're going to be one of the seven, Dominic, if that's okay with you. But we need, I'm glad you're here because, it's sort of hard for us all over the world. I think I think our, for the 7, I think our coordinators, would be important. Nigel would be one, our transfer coordinator. So Nigel and Donald and, Benny would be important too. So, but anybody beyond that as well. Now I know that, that Manuel Soto is going to take, is that correct? Is he gonna be taking, Manuel Soto, he'll be taking, Don's place, I believe, as the US coordinator. Is that right, or did I have that wrong? Let me know, because I think both of you would be important to be on there. Okay, so hi. Oh, Brian, yes, yes, I was just about ready to talk about you, Brian. You you're just Johnny on the spot. Brian, I would love to have you also on that, the on that too. Also, we need something that's called a statutory auditor. I'm not sure what that is, but, we'll have someone who will do that. I would think that that would be part of what the, banker would do, but I'm not even sure of that. So that may be something we'll have to find out more about. Uh, okay, good. Thanks. Okay, this next thing, the professional branding plan. Brian, I can't thank you enough. We uh, Ali had tried his hand at it, and I had sort of fumbled around with something, ended up with this 45-minute treatise, so that doesn't help any. But I think what we have is what Brian provided for us. Let me bring it up and go over some of the points with you guys. Um, I had put this up on the Lyrique watch lounge, okay? Because I thought that would be sort of a broader spreads because it's all of us involved, all 3 watches plus, uh, or actually all 2 watches and the ones that are on the rise. Let me bring it up real quick, and I wanna go over some points with you on it. Okay, hang on. Okay, I don't know if you've had a chance to go over this or not. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. There we go. Okay, oh, good. Okay, I like this. Uh, Brian was able to touch every base, I think a number of bases I didn't even think about. So let me sort of scroll through these. Let me encourage everybody to go over I made a PDF file of this and it's on the Lyrique Watch lounge. So let me okay, the core values, craftsmanship. That's exactly right. Participation, consensus, creative process, not just consuming. It's another part. Authenticity, transparent sourcing, another one. Inclusivity, a global community united by passion, not gatekeeping. Innovation and tradition, reinventing ownership while honoring artistry. Couldn't couldn't put it better. This is why, Brian, thank you again, why we need somebody with that. Okay, Dominic Pixel Voyager, Dominic, uh, since we don't have, we're really, there's no, we have no employees. We're all volunteers. So we'll have to check that one out. or would you check it out too? That's for, Donald, that's for a licensed auditor. It just said one auditor on it. It said one statutory auditor. I didn't see more than one, but 2 is okay, I guess. Okay. Okay, target audience. We are the audience, okay? Core enthusiasts, aspiring collectors, design lovers, collaborators. Again, that's pretty much what we're doing, okay? Positioning for connoisseurs, um, and connoisseurs become co-creators. That's another one. It's just exactly right, I think. And then here we have a chart. God, I love these from my days as a sociology professor. Something that dear to my heart. Uh, Okie doke. This is great. I mean, I think it is. And again, but here you have the active creator who will be the watchmakers and our designers and so forth. Passive collective. That's, wait, that's us, I guess. Closed. Anyway, all of these kinds of things, you can take a quick look at that. This is why I'd like you to go over it. The vertex axis represents the role of the collector, the size of each bubble cord, the relative number of watches. Oh boy, JL high end of 90,000 and RW Smith the low end of 10 to 15. Okay, we're right at 100. By the way, too, Brian, this is sort of a funny thing because we're organized around projects rather than we're part of this, but all of us don't participate in all of the projects. Like I'm not involved in the next project because I've got exactly what they're making. It's a jumping hour with my Chanel Monsieur, but I'm also working on another project. I'm hoping that we'll keep it going with Jean-Marc Viderec, and that may be come up later on as a totally different project. That also may be a very different kind of project for Lyrique. So we'll have to see what's going on with that too. The brand personality: engaged, creative, authentic, cultivated, collaborative. Oh man, these are things that, like I said, I didn't even know that they. Okay, benefits: emotional belonging, empowerment, pride, connection. Functional, ongoing access, uncompromising quality. Well, we compromised a little on the dial. We had to. Creative influence, authentic rarity. Not even trying. One of the authenticity of the rarity is this: you can't make a lot of these watches of this level with a bespoke movement. So far, we've had a new movement in all 3 of them, even though the one between 1 and 2 wasn't very much. Between 2 and 3, it's a lot. And then we have another one between 3 and 4. Yeah, Michael, that's true, and that's what makes it sort of interesting and unique. We'll have to figure that out. Okay, functional ongoing access. Okay, we got that. Oh, hang on a second. Supporting associations, to craftsmanship, participation and storytelling. The participation and storytelling, we can do that through our social media. And I think that's going to be something trying to get more people involved in it. Exclusivity through authenticity. International Circle of Enthusiasts, no doubt about that. Longevity and sustainability. Mechanical watches are built. This is all great. Proof points, elite partnerships, direct collaboration. It's true. Elite and sort of one soiled dove. We'll put that one in. Transparent process, global expertise, haute horlogerie standards, true value. Okay, brand manifesto. Oh boy. Wow, where passion shapes time. It's got everything, Brian. This is fantastic. Okay, let me encourage everybody to take a look at this. I just wanted to sort of to go through it to get a feel of it and to show you all of the work that Brian did for us. This is fantastic. So thanks again, Brian. Yeah, being a member, that's something. We have sort of a unique membership. I don't know. Really great. Oh, let me say something about the waiting list. Raymond, one of the things I was hoping to do on with this the Lyrique Watch Lounge was to also use it for a place where people could sort of to act in a way as a waiting list place or a place to contact the person taking care of the waiting list, which is Raymond. In case you forgot, Raymond, Raymond said he'd had to have a dedicated email address or something so that people who wanted one could shoot him an email and say, "Hey, I got one. I'd like to get one." And then also, if somebody wants to sell their slot or their watch, they could go through the same thing. But Raymond, I'm leaving that up to you. I thought it was a great that you volunteered for it, and now, now the other foot falls. Okay. All right. I don't know what action items that I have right now. I did contact, after talking to everybody, I did contact Sebastian, and I said, it looks like we'd like to go ahead with him. And so that's been done already. I didn't try to do it to undermine anybody, because if somebody says, look, man, I'm only going to take this or that or whatever, and you can, but again, this will kick everything back, and I hate to have people, standing by forever. Brian and I and Jeffrey didn't. We did risk it because we didn't know what we were going to get, but they turned out okay. I mean, I'm happy with mine, and so's Brian, and so's Jeffrey. So it made it the little bad things on them, I think, would be more concerning. Carrie Booten-Lannon said something that to me is sort of almost the epitome of cheek. He said, well, they're hand done, and so you can get individual differences. I don't know why that was worse than presumptuous. It was sort of like, oh, little kitties, here, you can take one, and you can tell your friends it's unique because we screwed up on the dial. That really wasn't. Yeah, we're stuck pickle in a jar. Jesus Christ. Hey, Michael, you've been going to Cracker Barrel too often. Come up with those things. Okay, anything you guys any to-do things that I should be doing between now and next week? One of the things that I'm pretty sure is coming out that may have me running around a lot is that I believe next week they'll be announcing the nominated, watches in the Grand Prix. I may be wrong, but I have a feeling that this is not saying telling tales out of school. It's just I don't know for sure, but if that happens, that'll be something that will keep me busy because I have the Grand Prix picks, and I've got to get the people, got to go through that and find out who won the first round of that. Yeah, Don, could you do that? Set up a process for that? Um, I think, you know, I think the people that this affects the most are the people who haven't got their watches yet. Um, and so if to put together sort of a review group, a Lyrique review group, uh, people who don't have their watches, and I think that Brian and I and Jeffrey ought to take as many pictures of our dials as possible. We could use those for a comparison of dials that aren't terrible. I'll put it that way. I won't give them the due of doing a great job. Great. Would anybody like to work with Donald to be, especially if you haven't got your watch yet, to be part of the review that we'll be getting um, from Sebastian? He'll send them to me, and then I'll send them to you guys. Okay, just to make it easy, not because not because I want another job. Okay, so if anybody would like to volunteer to help on the review, contact Don. Okay. All right. Anything else you guys think we ought to take care of? By the way, those of you who have family for Labor Day, um, Henry, you don't have your watch yet, or did you send yours back to be fixed? Um, okay. Um, where she said, Brian, why don't you join Donald and Henry for the review? And then you could have, because you have one in hand. Um, I tell you where we should put them. Put them up on the E2 site. This is only for the Etude number 2 group. It's not for everybody. It's not for the Heure Zoulou, and it's not for the other ones. So just put them up on the, and I'll take the ones that I took and put them up there too. We'll put them up on the Etude number 2 site, and I'll ask Jeffrey. Jeffrey sent a picture in, but we'll uh, try to get a close up on that. But I think it would help if you worked with Henry and Don on the on going over them, since you have one already. Okay. Okie doke. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So listen, if anything comes up during the week, I'll let you know. And thank you all for coming. We'll sort of a long day's journey into night that we're going through on E2, and we'll know a hell of a lot more. I suppose we can say that. Have a great Labor Day if you're celebrating it, and see you next time. Take care.